Hey, what's up guys, this is ColbyCheeZe with OnRPG. Today we're doing a review of an upcoming game, Lucent Heart, currently released as open beta, and this is a new massive multiplayer game ported over from Japan. It had been out in Japan for about 2 years and was their top game, essentially just like WoW is the #1 game over here. This game was the big one over in Japan. The best way to describe it, I suppose, in a nutshell would be to say it's a cross between World of Warcraft and eHarmony. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of odd at first. You think about what? eHarmony? That's like a matchmaking service. Well, the reason I say that is because in Lucent Heart, there's actually something called the Cupid system, which allows you to match up with other people, either of the opposite gender, which most of you will probably do, and now, actually for the US version here, they've allowed for same-sex matches up. The game is free to play and does kind of cater to the cutesy, fluffy type art style and whatnot, so that it will kind of cater to more the women as well. But the game's not too bad if you do have some more hardcore gamer in you. So let me just kind of go in and talk about some of the gameplay and give you an idea of how the game's going to play out and let you make a decision and see if you like it.
Oh, that is not a pet, it's a baby! Babies aren't pets! What? No. No!
First off, when you're first beginning the game, you don't actually create a character class or, like a race or anything like that. You basically create your character and give it his birth date so it can choose your zodiac sign, and you'll customize the look of your character and give him a name and whatnot. Now, as you go through the game, there's pretty much as you're going through the first couple of quests when you're leveling up, you're going to be making some decisions depending on the NPCs that you talk to and things of that nature. So you can first choose to become a mage or a warrior, and that's kind of your first step into becoming a fighter within this game. And as you progress, you'll go from, let's say you chose a mage, then after a couple of levels, you'll get to choose if you want to be a wizard or a priest. And then further on down the line, you can even break that off into further categories, so you can be so it branches out quite a bit, and there's a lot of different roles. There's gunners, and then there's monk, or like priests, and then there's wizards, and then there's like wizards that do lots of like water and fire damage, and the ones that use more of the the moon powers and different things of that nature. After level 30 or so, your character gains some different types of abilities, such as something called the Astrolabe ability, and there's a lot of different abilities that you can get, and it's more centered around your zodiac signs, and it's very customizable. Each class is extremely different. You have some classes that can be like a mana battery for other classes, or that can provide certain buffs to everyone else. There's a whole lot of different customization, and more than just button mashing. There's a little bit of strategy involved, and a lot of this goes into the different dungeon play when you are grouped up and whatnot. So a lot of different stuff to consider with this, and probably too much for me to go into in just a small review, but that kind of gives you an idea of just the depth of the game so far. The questing in the game was actually made quite enjoyable over other MMO games that I've played before. There's an auto loot pickup when you kill enemies. So let's say I kill a couple of monsters, the loot is automatically added to my inventory. I don't have to run around and click on them and pick it up. It just kind of rolls in, and you can see it on the bottom left of your screen what you've picked up in your inventory. And so that's actually quite enjoyable to run around and not have to deal with that. It may sound like something small, but in the grand scheme of things, it really adds up in the end. Also, another really cool thing about questing is that pre-level 36, they've made it quite easy for you. They've got this little game played reward system, essentially, where in the bottom right, every like 10-15 minutes you can click a button and get a reward, and you will be able to get lots of cool helpful items pre-level 36 that will help your questing. And the game is actually quite easy up to that point. So it really tries to make it as easy as possible for you to get into the game. For example, another thing that I found really useful was that if I pick up a couple of quests and I'm not quite sure where to go, I can actually just click a button that says go to and monster, and it will automatically path my character to the location of the enemy that I need to start killing for the loot drops. And then I can click report once I'm done, and it'll automatically run back to the NPC that I need to turn that quest into. So this is actually very nice to be able to do that, and then you can sit back and just kind of chat with somebody or whatever. You don't have to worry about holding down the W key to run long distances to turn in quests and things like that. I have to give them props on this one. This was a very nice feature that I wish I had in other MMO games as well. It was way more useful than I could even imagine to be in. It was just really relaxing to be able to do that in the quests and stuff. As you're destroying the different monsters, you'll see a lot of the loot that is dropped is a bunch of crafting materials. You don't actually get a lot of items in this game, and from what I understand, the economy is generally player driven. There's not going to be a lot of item drops that you find from mobs and dungeons and out in the world, but rather you have to craft everything yourself. And so what it does is it drops all kinds of crafting items and materials, and you will very soon in the game decide to go ahead and learn some crafting professions, whether it be alchemy or some kind of forging or engineering type setup or whatever you are more interested in doing. And the cool thing about the crafting in this game is that there's actually going to be like a job board that you can set your recipes on, and while you're offline or not even there, people can run up to this job board and say, hey, there is this certain type of item that I would like to have crafted. They can provide those crafting materials, and it will automatically try to create that item based on your success rate that you have with that particular thing, and it'll give you the money that you posted up as your fee for crafting that. So it allows players to have all of their crafting professions set up, and you don't have to stand there in town for hours, just asking people, hey, I can do this and I can do that. You just put it up on the job board, and people come up and they will interact with you that way rather than doing it manually. I thought that the dungeons in this game were pretty interesting as well. The system is kind of based around a bit of randomization. In other words, one of the dungeons that I was checking out with my tour through the game was one where you can actually combine up to 3 different stones, and the stones would determine the type of dungeon that would be created for you. So one stone will determine the type of boss that you would face, and another one will determine the types of enemies, and another will determine the loot. So it's kind of interesting. You can find these stones when you're out questing in the world, or as drops from monsters, or even in the dungeons. So some of the stones can be more rare than others because obviously they're gonna give you different types of encounters. And so that's a pretty interesting mix-up to kind of add flavor to the dungeon and rating type system that they have. The dungeons are going to be quite difficult from what I hear as well. You can have up to 6 people in your party, and the dungeons actually require a good bit of teamwork as well because they are going to be very pool-based, and you have to make sure and use your CC abilities correctly. And so if you are used to raiding and doing dungeons in games like World of Warcraft and things of that nature, and you are looking for a type of challenge like that, then you might enjoy the dungeons that are in this game as well. So going back at the beginning of the video, I did say that the game is kind of like a mix of eHarmony type setup, and just to kind of go over the matching in this system in this game, there's a Cupid system which will allow you to participate in a match, and you can choose people based on their different traits such as their level and if they're like artsy or more outdoorsy, or you can kind of choose a couple of different traits like this, and then participate in a match that happens, I think, every hour or so. Get matched with somebody, and you guys can go out and group and party together, and you'll get extra experience on your quests and just other little bonuses, and you can do cool little emotes with each other that gives you bonuses, like you can run up and hug each other, and it gives you like some kind of like happiness bonus and some other things like that that will actually affect your in-game stats quite a bit. Now, if you meet someone that you really like in the game, you even have something really cool you can do. You can do an actual in-game wedding, and you're given these 50 invitations which you can go and hand out to players yourself, and you are given your own little wedding instance, and you can all join in there, and you have this wedding. And then at the very end of the wedding, it's kind of funny because everyone goes PvP mode as kind of the end of the wedding party, and everyone can just like fight each other down, and it's like a big massacre. So pretty interesting and funny stuff overall. The game is really evolved around being a very social game with the crafting being the center of everything, and then the whole matching thing. And then there's even some events that are going to be run by the team, the game developer team themselves, which one that was explained to me is this huge trivia event where players can all join in from the server, and they can win bonuses and things like that. And it's just going to be trivia from like pop culture and things like that. So you can win some cool bonuses by being the winner of that as well, like basically 5 levels of experience in some cases, or it just kind of depends and varies. For those that are interested in PvP, there is actually quite a bit of PvP involved also. I wasn't able to view any of this since the game was just released to open beta, so there's not a whole lot of high-level players. I think the highest at the time was around like 46, 47, the max level being 65, and once you get up to the higher levels, there's actual PvP quests and zone where you can kind of rush out and try and do the different objectives, and you can stop other players by obviously destroying them because it's PvP. So that's going to be some cool stuff. Another thing that was explained to me is that now that the game has been out for around 2 years in Japan, they've put out tons and tons of regular content updates. And so the cool thing about it being ported over here to America is that the game is going to release all of these content updates that had been put out over the course of 2 years in Japan. They're going to be putting those out in a very short amount of time within the next couple of months. So players that get into this game are going to see a huge amount of new content just put out regularly all the time. So you're going to have a lot of stuff to play around with, a lot of new things to experience if you get into the game starting now. So that's going to be a lot of cool stuff to check out for sure. Again, another good thing about the game coming over from Japan and being out for 2 years is that a lot of the systems are already polished and good to go. So there's not a whole lot of bugs in the game that you would normally see with new releases of MMO style games. And I think that's definitely a plus for Lucent Heart for sure. So anyhow, up to now, hopefully I've given you a general overview of how the game is going to feel and play out. There's definitely a lot more depth than I was able to go into in this review, such as actually showing you some of the dungeon play or PvP and things of that nature. But overall, I think that if you are interested in picking up an MMO game that you can get into and play with your friends and is very social and very based around player economy, this might be the game for you. As far as my thoughts on the game, it's probably not something that I would personally play just because I'm more into more of an action MMO style player, and this is more like I said, it's more WoW based where you just you're just pushing the buttons and using the abilities, and not a lot of active jumping around, manually aiming, and skill shots, all that kind of cool stuff. I do believe that if I was looking for this style of an MMO, I would be satisfied. There is enough hardcore content to keep me entertained, and I do kind of like the whole crafting system and the social aspect of the game. That is pretty entertaining. Overall, I believe it's something worth checking out. It is free to play, and so you can jump in and give it your own thoughts as well. But for more information, be sure to check out OnRPG.com, or you can come discuss the game on our boards at OnRPG.com/boards. Subscribe up top to the OnRPG YouTube channel, as we will be having more game trailers, game reviews, and other cool content for you guys here coming in the future. So don't miss out. This is ColbyCheeZe. Peace out.